went ahead and just marked in. Your name was on it.
I figured.
Yeah.
Okay, we will go ahead and call the June 2nd, 2025 Lewis Central Board of Directors meeting to order. May I get roll call, please?
Ms. Atkins, Mrs. McDaniel. Here. Mrs. Peterson. Here. Mrs. Sheffel.
Here.
Mr. Sorensen.
Here.
Mr. Sturm.
Here.
Mr. Wright.
Here. Approval of the June 2nd, 2025 agenda. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen.
Yes.
Mr. Sturm.
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. Commendations, good news.
So I do have a presentation. So the great news is we are all out of school. So we had kids were down on Friday. Just really had a really good day Friday. I was over at Titan Hill a lot. They had a lot of celebration there. I went down to the middle school. The middle school had a great celebration. They had their 8th grade graduation, and then they had a lot of activities outside, and Mr. Sturm was there. He was grilling up a storm. So I guess your daughter's a part of that. Like,
Yeah.
did she have a good time?
She did. She had a great time.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of fun. It's always like a very uplifting day too. Kids are excited. Staff's obviously excited, and even parents pick them up. The end of the day was absolutely insane because everybody decides they want to pick up their child at the last day of school. Me included. I was talked into it by my kids. I didn't want to. I was going to make them ride the bus, but they said I would have been the meanest person ever if I did. So, not the first time I've been called that, but I thought, what the heck. So, and then today was the staff's last day of the year, and we do a celebration too. So 2 times a year we get all the staff together, and we just kind of talk about beginning of the year. It's about hey, we're great. We're back in the summer. We're excited to be here. We're excited to get to work. This is what we have in store for the school year. And then the end of the year is more, let's highlight all the great things we've done. We did have Mrs. Shuffle, Mr. Sturm, and Mr. Wright were there today. And so they got to come on stage, got to hand out the retirement gifts. We have different organizations come in. We have the PTA comes in and they talk, the Booster Club, the Education Foundation, and the Education Association all talked, and they were all just gave some highlights. I got to introduce Megan Conklin, who is the LCEF's first director, so that was exciting, and talk a little bit about them taking over LCLC in the future, and the reason why we were looking to do that. The association had some great things to say about your partnership with the association and really our partnership in general between the teachers and the administrators and how everything just kind of works. So just a lot of exciting things. And then Director Wright gave a great talk, and then with the high school, I guess all the schools kind of go through their highlights for the year, and then I get up and talk about give kind of a shortened speech this year, but because we had a lot of projects that we covered, and then after I covered all the projects and all the changes we're going to have coming down the pike, we took a look at years of service and the retirement, the retirees, and so that's kind of what I'd like to highlight right now is kind of celebrate some years of service milestones. One of the things that's really cool about Lewis Central is we talk about like, oh man, we had to replace 14 teachers. How many teachers did we replace this year?
23.
23. So 23 teachers. Sounds like a lot, except we have 200 teachers. So you look at that and you say, well, that's about a 12% turnover. That's really not bad. That's an 88% retention rate just in our teaching staff. So, so when we talk about retention, we have teachers that have been around a long time. And what's even more surprising is we have staff members that have been around, or like non-teaching staff that have been around for a super long time too. I mean, Chuck Skokin's one who's been around for 40 years, so as we kind of go through this is actually not just teachers, this is all of our staff in general that are celebrating their milestones. So 5 years, this is kind of the list. I won't read them all to you, but you'll see we have a little bit of everybody in there, paraeducators, teachers, drivers. So if you go to the next, this is our 10-year group. Okay, go to the next one, 15-year group. Year group. 25-year group. And then 35. And so Anna, you guys know very well, she's celebrating her 35th year with the district. And she's actually a graduate of Lewis Central as well, so she's been around here basically her entire life. So I said it's amazing. She must have started working here when she was like 2 years old, because we know she hasn't hit 40 yet. So, but Anna does a ton of great things, including making this list. So when she made this list for me, and then I couldn't help but say it was her fault that her name's up there for 35 years. So, but all these people, thank you so much for serving, and I had them all stand up and kind of be recognized quickly. If you go to the next one then. And then here's our retirement. So every year we give out a small retirement gift at the end of the year. If you're here for up to 10 years, 5 to 10 years, you get coasters, and they're all kind of monogram coasters. They have LC on them, Titans. So You get a cutting board if you're between 10 and 20 years, and then if you're more than 20 years, you get a charcuterie cheese board. So it's kind of a nice little set. It comes with a little cheese knife and so all of those individuals. Linnell Rogers she actually retired in January, so she received our charcuterie board and cheese board in January. And then Denise Johnson was unable to make it today, so she got hers last week in a presentation. So they gave it to her then. Otherwise, the rest of them, with the exception of Cheryl Casey, she wasn't able to make it today, but everybody else was there to celebrate. And then we had some cake out in the Commons afterwards, and that's Costco cake. It was delicious. And then they all kind of went back to their buildings, and I know that a couple of them continued the retirement parties. I know Linda Hahn had one down at Kraft in the afternoon. So, but yeah, it's just a really uplifting day, and it's a good way to go out on top. I know teachers have a lot to do, and our staff have a lot to do to close out their classrooms and get checked out for the year. And I know, but it's a relatively short. It's less than 2 hours. We get together, we have breakfast, we have fun, and then we send them on their way. So, any questions about the celebration? That's really all.
That's it?
Sorry.
Okay. No, you're good.
Yep.
All right, we will move on to comments and suggestions. This is the first portion of our meeting where we open the floor to the public for any feedback they wish to share with the board. Do we have anybody?
Possibly, we might want to give it a minute or two.
Okay.
While we wait, there was some individuals that made it to state track
Oh, yeah.
and postseason stuff for some sports. We had soccer and
Yep. So the plan right now is on the 16th to recognize all of the spring accolades. Yep. So that'll come on the 16th. So because soccer just wrapped up. We have track, tennis, baseball, softball is just getting underway, but I'll touch base on them when those seasons are done.
We just have a comment online, congrats to our retirees and to our students for the year.
Oh, nice.
Very nice. Moving on.
And their first year at Elsie was wonderful, and they thank you all.
Okay.
That's always good to hear. Okay, so we will move on to the consent agenda. Is the personnel sheet current?
Yes, it is.
Then can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Reports. 6.01 curriculum instruction report.
Mine is only 7 slides, so it's not very long. But I thought I would give you guys a preview of what we're doing in August for our all-staff PD day. I just started looking through, what are some things I've been working on? I thought, this might be an interesting one to kind of connect some dots with things. So as you guys probably remember, we are utilizing an instructional framework called the Danielson framework. And so our teacher leaders kind of got some practice with it this year. Next year, though, all of our staff will be using this Danielson framework. So I'll tell you a little bit more here as we go. So one of our days back in the fall is going to be a full day dedicated to learning more about Danielson for all of our teachers. So one of the things we're going to talk about is just building some clarity on what effective teaching practices are. So she has a couple different domains. There are things like planning, things like classroom management, and then she has different components built into those domains that give us kind of a similar language to be able to talk about effective teaching practices. We're also going to be talking a lot about how to strengthen teacher reflection and growth. So in the past, teachers all create a career development plan that's part of Iowa code. They have to do that. But everybody's has looked the same. We've just kind of copied and pasted a building goal, and then everybody's had the same one, and there's some benefits to that. But the drawback is it's hard to be personalized, and it's hard if you're a teacher in the classroom and there's a particular area you'd like to grow in. It gets harder to have some of those conversations with your admin or coaches. So it's going to be a little bit of a shift there. And then we're going to talk to you about just how this supports the alignment with some of the other things that we're doing in our district and within the state. So why this matters, obviously Iowa code requires that we do some sort of evaluation. And so we are connecting the Danielson framework with our Iowa teaching standards. So a long time ago, actually, the Iowa state level association group created the crosswalk that shows how these components of the Danielson framework connect to the Iowa teaching standards. So we'll go over that too. And then all of that, just being able to have this framework and being able to support and coach teachers with that framework supports these district goals. Wherever we end up going as a district with some of our strategic planning, I would think it probably all aligns to increasing student engagement, strengthening outcomes, and then just that consistency and equitability. So here's what the day is going to look like. We're going to start with just talking about why the Danielson framework, how do we get here. We actually did a little bit of this past year, just knowing that some of our teacher leaders were going to use it, so it'll be kind of a refresher. Talk about how this connects to our district and building goals. And then we're going to have a teacher and principal share a little bit about how they've used Danielson this year. And I actually read tomorrow, one of our teachers is coming in to kind of pre-record this, and I read what she is sharing, and she's a specials teacher. And it's really, really cool what she talks about, how she got out of this framework and how she grew in her practice and outcomes for kids. And I think it's really cool that a specials teacher is going to talk about it, because sometimes that's a group that sometimes feels like, how does this apply to me? It's maybe easier to think through how we apply things to the general teachers. So we're excited about that teacher sharing and our principal sharing how it's gone for them this year. So then we're going to kind of run it like a conference. We're going to have some different sessions. Everybody's going to get through all of them. But the first one, we're going to give some more clarity just about how this framework aligns with our Iowa teaching standards, where it fits in with the evaluation process, and then how to make connections with your career development plan. And then again, that shift in the career development plan about how this is going to be on that teacher's personal growth goal. Next, last year, we purchased a Power School product. It's called Perform. And in some of our buildings, our principals got a lot of experience and practice with it this year. Next year, everybody will be using it, but this is where we're going to house all of this information, all of your evaluation forms, all of your walkthrough data, all of your career development plans. So it's just nice not to have things living in the Google Drive in different places or paper copies of things. So there will be a whole session just on how teachers and admin can access those documents, those resources. And then a whole other session is going to be kind of devoted to vocabulary within the Danielson framework. One of the things that we really want to focus on is it's all about growth, and you identify as a practitioner where you feel like you land in certain areas. And so there's ratings on it, and it's basically like proficient, basic, I can't remember the other ones, but nobody likes the term basic. So we kind of need to have some mindset shifts about what some of these terms really mean and what the whole purpose is. I think the final column is distinguished, but to be distinguished in every category would be just an insane feat, and that's not really the point either, is to be. But most of us who are teachers, we like the A, and we like, so that session is going to be really important, because we're just really going to have to talk through what this means, what's it all about. And then the very last one is then kind of taking all of that and then shifting into their career development plans, and then having them write their career development plans there on the spot. So they'll leave by the end of the day with their career development plan done. So the impact we hope it will have is that they'll have some confidence just in what that career development plan process looks like, their evaluation process for the year, that we will all be aligned on expectations and some of the vocabulary, and then, as we always are, just ready to focus on what matters most is the student learning piece of things. So then looking ahead, like this is really just the start, this day in August. We've really tried hard to build in some ongoing coaching with our instructional coaches and provide layers of support for teachers as they dive into this. One of the other things we want to build in our admin team meetings is just building that leadership capacity in the evaluation process and making sure as an admin team, like we're consistent. And then just this continued focus on teacher growth and equitable outcomes. And that's it. Did you time me? I feel like that was pretty good. Any questions on Danielson or the PD in the fall that we have scheduled?
When you go to the breakout sessions, will like craft be together? Will Titan Hill be together? Or is it?
No, I think we're going to totally mix it up. But that's a good question. And so the other way that we're able to do this too is we've tapped some of our principals too, and they're going to help facilitate. So like the first one, I might lead that, but then I think Dana's leading a session of it, and then let's say Mandy's leading a session of it. And we've got like a partner facilitator too. So I think because of that too, we're just going to kind of mix it all up and have them go. It's all going to be in the high school. I think we're going to use the auditorium, the commons, and maybe the NPR for it. So just be nice to get some movement, you know, between sessions.
Any other questions for Dr. Herb? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to 6.02 Finance Report.
So for our finance report tonight, we are going to talk about the nutrition fund. So as majority of you know, the nutrition fund is a completely separate fund, runs completely separate from the general fund or any of our schoolhouse funds like the PEPAL fund or sales tax. So all of their revenues for the nutrition fund come from federal funding based on the number of meals that are served, our parental fees, which obviously are when parents or guardians are paying for lunches and breakfast or a la carte items. And then we do receive some state funding and then also some donations from families or organizations that want to help with students that are unable to pay their balances. So on the flip side, we have the expenses. The only expenditures that are allowed out of the nutrition fund are ones that are directly related to the actual nutrition. So it's the nutrition staff and their salary and benefits only. Any food costs, obviously, and then any equipment. And it has to be equipment used specifically for the nutrition fund. So for example, we can't even buy lunchroom tables because we use them for other items. So really it's very specific on the equipment that we can use for that fund. So I did look back, well, I did put a slide up here to show our revenue and expenditures throughout. Obviously FY20, all our revenues were a little bit lower because of COVID and us closing. And then in 2021, we started to get back into things. Throughout part of that year, then they started to make lunches free for everyone. So we did see us start to close that gap a little bit and not have quite such a large loss. And then in 22, we saw a drastic increase in our revenue. That was because everyone was having their lunches fully funded by federal funds. And then we also, with that, saw an increase in the number of students that were eating lunches as well, due to it being free for everyone. So over the last couple of years, though, we have trended back down, and that was partially because of the fact that we don't have all of the federal funding, and then as we've started to move away from the time that it was all free, we have seen a little bit of a decrease in the amount of students that are eating now. So our expenditures have stayed pretty steady throughout. We did obviously we have seen a little bit of an uptick just with the amount of food costs that has been happening throughout the past few years, but we are starting to steady back out here this past year. And for the first time in all of my time and few years prior to me, at the end of FY24, the nutrition fund was actually positive. So we were very excited about that. And then moving on, we are projecting that we are going to continue to kind of level off here with our revenue and our expenditures, and we're hoping this year that we're going to have about a $50,000 gain. And with that in mind, that is why we did go ahead and make those market adjustments, because it is something that the nutrition fund now can sustain with those market adjustments for the salaries. So, does anyone have any questions on the nutrition fund?
What fund does the gain go to?
So it's all
Does it
self-sustaining,
stay,
so yep.
does
it
it
just
stay with the
continue- yep.
nutrition
It
fund?
continues on, so yes, the
Only
end
that
of
part of
FY24,
it.
that was the first time that it had been positive. So there for a while, it did have to borrow money from other funds.
Any other questions for Andrea?
And they do cap you on how much you can carry over from year to year. So so the goal out of the nutrition fund is not to make money, it's to break even with a little positive, so that way if we need to replace equipment, we can, so.
Well, the money that we put into it, we can use it for the tables or whatnot?
So
Or
we-
does it go back to the fund
Yeah, so
that is
it's-
restricted?
Yeah, so everything is self-contained, so think of it as like an enterprise that's just working under our umbrella. Like,
Gotcha.
we don't put any money into it, they can't give us any money back, it's just gotta operate completely on its own.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay, then we will move to 6.03, Superintendent Report.
And we have, so my update today, it's gonna be a lot about what we're looking at for changes for next year. So these are just some of the PowerPoint slides that I shared with our staff today. So some of the things that we can expect to see: cell phone legislation, that was a big point of emphasis for the governor and legislators this year. Again, I think what was communicated and what ended up being put into practice are maybe two different things. And so I think in the beginning it was very much, we're going to eliminate phones from schools. Like, we're going to take them out of schools and they're never going to be in there. And that was really what was communicated by the governor as far as what she really wanted to see happen. And then through the process of legislation, it ends up being, well, instead of getting school phones completely out of school, we are going to ask that they be restricted from instructional spaces. Well, that's pretty much what we do now. Like, right now, we already have policies and practices in place that restricts cell phones from being used in classrooms during instructional time. So I'm waiting to hear more. We have not received any formal guidance on how that is to be interpreted and what they want to see from that, if there's any sample policies as well. I've heard it could be anything from the school has choice as long as the phones aren't used during instructional time, which means that they could potentially still be in the classrooms, they could still be on them throughout the day. They just, when their instructional time is going on, they're not to use them. To know the intent of that was they're not to be in school at all. And so cell phones are out the door, not to be brought in at all. And so we're still waiting for some clarification on that. What's most realistic when talking with the attorney is that we'll probably end up with some sort of policy in which cell phones are not allowed in the classroom at all, at any time. And that includes headphones, earbuds, supposed to include watches. I don't know how you can possibly maintain, that sort of level of adherence to the code, but, we'll do our best, but, we'll probably end up in that realm of you can't have them in the classroom at any time, you can have them at lunch, you can have them in the hallways, but that'll be it. And so, also need to figure out, like, what does that look like for disciplinary action? Student pulls out their cell phone, staff member allows them to have their cell phone, what does that mean for that staff member if we find out, If the student has it out and the staff member asks them to put it away, what does that look like? They had it out in the classroom. So there's a lot of pieces that we need to vet. But again, it's not as cut and dry as not being able to have it all together. I will say that I think one of the reasons they didn't go that far is because they had a lot of pushback from parents who, for a safety reason, want their children to have access to phones. I'm not sure it's as much of a safety reason as it is a convenience reason, because back when I was in school, my parents used to have to call the office and they used to have to take a message down, and then they have to get me to come down to get the message or deliver the message to my classroom, versus now a mom can just, or I can just text my daughter and say, hey, after school, don't forget this, or my daughter can text me and say, hey, I'm not feeling well, come and get me, okay? So I think we've gotten used to the modern convenience of having that instantaneous contact with our children at all times. And I don't think it's going to be bad for us to take a step back in that a little bit, to allow students an opportunity to problem solve on their own. Because right now, I mean, we'll have students text their parents, hey, I'm sick, come and get me. And before the student even ever came to the office to report to a nurse or to stop down, the parents are at the door saying, hey, my child just texted me, said to come get him. Well, sometimes it's because they are sick, and sometimes it's because they're trying to escape from something, whether it's an assignment or a test or a social situation. So by requiring them to come to the office and do it, we're gonna have them work through some of those issues. They're gonna be able to grow a little bit. I don't know that it's good for anybody to be on social media or to be on their phone at all times. So I think there really is gonna be a balance. It's gonna end up being a pretty good thing. But it is going to change and impact people. So again, we'll see what comes out through there. We're obviously making a huge shift from trimesters to semesters for next year. The biggest thing is for parents is that your children's classes will change once throughout the year, unless you're going to be in middle school exploratory. I think they're sticking with trimesters, which they can, because it is a middle school exploratory. I used to do that when I was a middle school teacher. And then the new except for the fact we're only have 2 conferences a year, so that's depending on how much you like that. That could be a good or a bad thing. We already made that shift with elementary this year. We have a new webpage. We'll show that in just a second. The cool thing about the webpage is we think it's going to be more easily navigated by parents and by community members. And there's going to be a specific staff portal that you have to have credentials to log into. But we're going to be able to load all of the staff items instead of relying on bookmarks and other things to give our staff access. Right now, it's kind of I feel like I'm constantly hunting down certain things to try to figure out where certain portals are. This will all be in one area. We're going to be getting new phones this year. You guys just proved that a couple meetings ago. New online transportation maintenance request system. So I'm starting to vet some of that. Right now, all of our don't shut down on me. Right now, all of our requests are paper copy or email, and so those can get lost easily. And it's hard for our staff members to track them. So looking at a system for that. LCLC will be transitioning to the Lewis Central Education Foundation under their umbrella. That's going to take about a year. So nothing that's immediate. And then we do have some behavioral instructional coaches this year, which is new, so that's going to be a great resource for our staff as well. So this is a copy of our new website. Emma's put this together. This is the same company she used when she was with the tourism board, and so she's very familiar with the back end of this, easy to update. It's got kind of a different look, kind of a clean look, big buttons. We're hoping that we can get some parents, once it's developed, to go through it with us, so that way we can see from a parent perspective, you know, when they're looking for something, what are they looking for, and how can we make sure that it's 1 to 2 clicks away. So that's pretty new. And then here's a long list. We have 25 major summer projects going on. That's why I shared with this, and I went through all these projects. I won't go through with you guys. But starting next week, we're going to have the high school parking lot. We already have the Titan Hill parking lot's already being torn up here. The high school chiller, that's already been delivered, and they're looking to start the install this week. Fire alarm starting this week. The roof's going to be starting this week. The tennis courts and the drainage, where they're going to take and wipe out all of the drainage ditch that's currently overgrown with trees and everything else. It's going to be all cleared out. Should do a lot for our drainage for the parking lots and the buildings in general. We'll all start this week. Titan Hill and high school door contact security storage. So this is going to be huge. This is something you guys will potentially approve if you guys approve this tonight. What this will do is this will put contacts on every exterior door at Titan Hill and the high school. You already approved this through the camera project for Creft, and then the middle school will get it through the renovation. But this will mean that anytime a door is open that's not supposed to be open, it'll send us a notification so we can track that. It'll also tell us if a door is open for too long, meaning that somebody has blocked it open, or a student has stuck a rock in the door, or a piece of mulch or something like that. So that'll notify us too, to say, hey, this door isn't locked for a while. You want to go check on it. So that should increase our safety significantly, and then our security storage, depending on which camera and which building is taking the video right now, it might only store it for as few as 5 to 7 days. We really want all that storage to be available for about 30-day period, and so that'll update that as well. If you go to the next. Middle school roof, so looking to replace a portion of the middle school roof. That's going to be starting here real soon too. Titan Hill and Craft LED lighting. Titan Hill HVAC will start more second half of the summer into the fall, just with lead times on some of that equipment. Titan Hill and Craft security vestibules. So I just got to see some of the initial drawings of the high school vestibule, and it's pretty exciting. And so they're hoping to go out to bid here soon, and I want to be able to, the next meeting, share with you guys the conceptual drawings for that. So kind of a reconfiguring of that space. Athletic field under the bleach storage, this is that pavement we talked about, and then Titan Hill and Craft playgrounds, if you go to the next one. And then we also have the middle school EPIC system, high school painting, weight room renovation, equipment, district-wide phone system replacement, Craft security cameras and door monitoring, high school trophy case renovation and addition, and Raptor emergency response system and visitor management. So that was part of that grant that was given to us last December. So they're now, next week they'll be on site. They're coming this weekend, Friday, Saturday, to install all the strobes in all the classrooms and buildings. So like I said, there's 25 major projects that are going to be going on this summer. It's just going to be chaos. If you go to the next one. So here's an example of how it would affect our community and our teachers and our students. Right here, you'll see that's a picture of our high school. The purple area is what they're calling phase 1. So by the end of potentially next week or the week after, all of that purple will be torn out, every bit of it. So it's going to be completely gone, and then they'll start working on the sub base and the electrical poles and those types of things, and that's going to be quite the project. But once that's out, obviously there's no access to the front of the high school building for, potentially months. And so all the access is going to have to go, and there's a red dot system there, around through the middle school, around the back, and then entry through kind of the athletic wing or the the black box theater, which we're kind of sorting that out right now. There's a good potential that we'll move the high school office if we can't figure out a configuration to leave it over in the black box area over to the middle school. And so we'll actually end up taking any of our deliveries and visitors and those things over in the middle school during that time and just kind of vacate the high school because they're going to be down without a chiller anyway, so there's not going to be air conditioning. It's going to be really warm. The fire alarm system's not going to be fully active, so we're just leaving it on certain areas as we change out that system. So there's just some things like that. But otherwise, we'll still have the weight room over there that's currently in the gym that'll be used on a daily basis. Our students are going to have to park in the middle school parking lot, which is the white area there. And the coaches are configuring where they would start in the middle school parking lot. They would go onto the field for their warm-ups and calisthenics, and they would go, and then they would walk over to the weight room for their workout, and then at the end of the day, then their walk back to their car would be kind of their cool down. So now staff and visitors can still park as close as you can to the building. That back lot by where the green roof is, that's going to get replaced. That will just be a staging area. Nobody will be able to go back there. That's for the tennis court addition, the roofing, and then the chiller. So that's going to kind of be off limits. So it's going to be a little bit of a mess. If you go to the next slide, this is Titan Hill. The red is what's going on right now. They've already torn up that area, that intersection area, and they started tear out of the pavement in front of Titan Hill. And then they will be then once that's all done, then they'll go back and do the purple areas, which will be kind of phase 2. And that is adding that additional lane. So as you can see, there's some rough sketch on there as far as how people will get around once they start those areas. So right now, all the pool entrance is on the side of the pool, on the side of the building. All of the LCLC entrance is right through the regular doors. And then once they switch over to the purple phase 2, then all the LCLC entrance will be through the pool door. And then we'll actually continue to have the pool entrance for people coming to use the pool be the side of the building, not the actual pool entrance. And that just kind of keeps separate the summer swim program from the LCLC kids. And then once that's all wrapped up, it'll be really nice. But in the meantime, it's going to be little logistical issues. So,
And can you remind me where the HVAC and everything, where that's going?
yep. So that is, if you look up by, so the mechanical room for this is on the very north side of the building, to the left of the playground. So if you go clear up, there you go, right up in there. Okay, so that's where the mechanical room is. So the boiler is going to go inside the mechanical room, and then the chiller is going to be set on a platform right out in that area there. And then that's where that'll go. Yep. Any questions about that? If you go to the next slide then, so this was just actually sent out today to all of our stakeholders. You guys should have received it in the mail. If you click on that, this is an active website, and we'll continue to update this on a weekly basis. And it just kind of, again, those maps, those logistical maps are right up front and center. If you keep going down, you'll see all the current projects that we have their own tab. So when you click on it, there is a narrative about what the project is. And there's also a part in there that says, you probably can't zoom in, but it says, this project, if you go back up, this project will highly affect our ability to use the high school facilities as we normally would during the summer. So there's also, not only is there a narrative about what the project is, but there is a little blurb in there about how this will affect our summer routine as we go throughout the summer. You also see that for every project, the engineer, the contractor, the budgeted cost, the contracted cost, the number of bids, funding source, and estimated timeline are all in there as well as any particular drawings we have in there. Excuse me. And then as we go on each week or every other week, as we have some major progress, it'll be Emma's job to go and take pictures of the progress as it happens, and then she'll upload it underneath each one of the tabs. So you'll be able to pull up and see all the parking, how the parking lot is coming along, as well as any of the other ones. So if you click on, for instance, go to like the Creft Playground or the Titan Hill Playground. Are those ones in there yet? Should be. We'll go back and double check that. If you go to Raptor. It's the second to last one. So that's a explanation as well. But like for instance, that one there actually has a link to the website where you can watch videos on what the Raptor emergency management system is. So that's just kind of a variety of things that we'll have in there. So the goal here is to be as transparent as possible with the publics, and so they can follow along and as we continue to move forward through these projects. Do you guys have any questions about that?
This is great.
Yeah, it's come together really nicely. Emma's done a really nice job. So, do you? Is there any more? I think that's at the last slide, Dr. Hartman.
Yes.
Okay, that's the last one. So that's it. So that's kind of my update. But yeah.
Are we tracking how many hits are on that website?
Our current website does not have analytic tracking, but our new website will have very in-depth analytic tracking.
Good, okay. That was all your stuff kind of wrapped together, right?
That was it. Yep.
Okay. We'll move on to discussion items. So 7.01 Titan Hill HVAC bid approval.
So we did receive 5 bids for the HVAC updates. So just a reminder, what they're doing for HVAC is they're going to be installing a boiler and a chiller to the current system to supplement the geothermal loop. The 5 bids are listed as you can see them there, and so my recommendation at this point, the engineer's recommendation actually, they're the ones that take the bids, review the bids, make sure that they're appropriate, would be to approve the bid from Grunwald in the amount of $406,489. And a reminder on the timeline, upon approval, they're anticipating the boiler should be in late August, early September. They'll have that installed by the time the winter months or the colder weather comes. The chiller won't be here until October, and then they'll install that before we get deep into winter. And then, so they'll have to go through one more fall of kind of fluctuating temperatures, and then we should have it figured out. So.
Have we worked with Grunwald before?
We haven't, not that we know of, but the engineers have, so they didn't have any problem with them, so.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty reputable
Is it?
company.
Okay.
Any other questions on the HVAC bid? Okay, we'll move forward with 7.02 high school trophy case improvements.
Okay. So if you go to, so basically, Mr. Dermody puts it best. You know, he talks about how, you know, winning is expensive. You know, so the further you go along in the year, the more events you have to travel to. You go to state, you have to get hotel rooms and everything else. Like, it's expensive to be good at stuff. And fortunately, we are good at stuff. Or our students are very good at stuff. I'm not that good at stuff, but students are good at stuff. And so that means that they bring home quite a bit of hardware. And one of the issues we've been running into is kind of this little internal battle about trophy cases, because everybody wants their stuff displayed, but it's impossible to display everything, you know. So we went down to saying, okay, we're only going to display state trophies, or major honors if there's not a state trophy available in your particular group. Well, now we've run out of places to put state trophies in large honors, and so really what we need is kind of an overhaul of our current trophy cases. So that means cleaning them out, adding a few, reorganizing them, trying to figure out, and when I say like reorganizing, like switching up the shelving in there and making it so it's more you know, when we design trophy cases at the beginning, you know, you have trophy cases that are designed for one set size of trophy. Well, not all the trophies are the same sizes. They're different sizes. You got some that are shorter, some that are taller. They're all over the place. And so, Mr. Vinchettel has worked with Cormackie. They're the only ones. We've reached out to several different organizations. Nobody really wants to tackle the project. Cormackie was the only one that would engage with us. They've become very highly reputable, or a highly reputable company out of Omaha. They do a lot of work for schools, and they came through and I guess have a pretty good master plan. We're going to do it in phases because the overall budgeted number was, in my opinion, pretty high. So this first phase, $59,584, is basically giving them the money to push forward with creating new trophy cases. Like, let's get those started to be created, and then once those are created, then the next phase will go in and kind of renovate the current trophy cases that we have. So with the goal of being done by, you know, late fall, winter-ish, somewhere in there. So
And so we're getting more trophy cases.
more trophy cases.
So will they be basically in the commons and down by the gym?
Yep, mostly in the commons. So I think there's a total of 3 new trophy cases is what's included in here. 3 new trophy cases, and then the renovation of all the trophy cases that we currently have that run along the walls. So they go clear down to the high school office. So
Right,
yeah,
right. Because
Yeah.
when you walk in, they're right there, and then
right.
that corner by the gym and down that way.
Right. There's a couple trophy cases. We'll probably combine some activities through this process, but the way the trophy cases are currently laid out, it doesn't allow for us to really combine them in a way that is equal for the 2 programs. One's going to be prominent, the other one's going to be, you know, secondary. So I think they have a plan to kind of create some options where we can combine some smaller groups into a single trophy case, but set it up in a way where they both feel like they're on display. So,
And this is the cost for the 3 new ones?
and some of the beginning work.
Okay.
So, yep.
Any idea how much the second phase?
Yep, so second phase will be, so we'll probably break that into two chunks. So it's like 60,000 for the first phase, and then depending on how crazy they get, between 16 and 19 for the next 2 phases. So
16 and 19?
16 and 19, yes. So I asked them to break it down into like 3 different phases, so we knew, so we could do it, and if we have to, you know, pull back because something else becomes more of an issue, then we hold off in certain areas. So we could do it all at once. It would blow our budget a little bit, and I just want to make sure that we're staying within my budget. So
I know Cormackie is a construction outfit. Did we contact cabinet builders?
Mr. Vinchettel contacted, I think, 4 different cabinet builders, including every recommendation that we received from people who, you know, have connection to Lewis Central.
Man, that's 20 grand a piece.
Yeah. Now that includes some of the initial work for some of the other trophy cases as well. So right now we have kind of 3 standalone trophy cases. This will add, I think, 3 trophy cases, and then make the other 3 match these 3 trophy cases. We don't want to put in like random trophy cases that don't match anything.
Oh, right.
So, and then the 2 other phases, one phase is to redo the trophy cases that are currently like closer to the gym, and then the second one is to redo the trophy cases that are closer to the offices.
Do you know, are they knocking holes in the walls to create those, or are they actually like gonna do masonry, add bricks?
No, we're trying to stay away from masonry. It's literally, we're gonna reuse the glass, but take out the glass, take out all the shells, redo the backing, and then put in a new shelving that fits what we need in those areas. So. The original bid was over 200,000, but it included all new glass for everything, and I just said, we don't need to redo. We can reuse glass, it's fine. So, it's good.
Do you have a drawing of their proposed layout
I just have the bid.
of these?
I just have the bid. I've seen what they're looking to do. That's when I've asked them to break it up into the three. But yeah, Mr. Vinchettel has been working with them directly for this work.
One of the statements that Mr. Ben Chattel said today at our end of year presentation that we're at is that Lewis Central has had a state championship in 9 out of the last 10 years in different events, but still that, you know, so to me.
The only year we didn't was COVID.
COVID, yeah,
COVID here.
2020.
Yeah. So just making sure that we equally honor each of these teams, things like that, in a way that's still within the aesthetics of what we want people to see when they come into our buildings. I think that's a big thing. Any other questions, comments?
I do know that he's been wanting to do this work for at least 2 years, and Cormac is the first one that's even given us a bid on it. So, and if I know Joe, he's contacted everybody, because when he decides he wants something, he really wants it, so.
Well, and how do you know these trophy cases are gonna fit all the different sized trophies? I
Well,
mean, they're
that's-
still gonna change sizes.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't like the cost, but, I mean, if you're gonna spend it, I wanna know that it's gonna work for years to come, just like the trophy cases that are there now.
right. And that would be the expectation, is that the shelves are more easily adjustable. Right now, I know the issue that we come across is that the trophy cases are fairly wide, and there's only one shelf that goes across. So I know that one of the things he's trying to figure out, well, you might want to wiggle your mouse, there it is ways that we can adjust different levels within there. So that's the goal. The goal is to create a system that's going to fit us for years to come. Just to your point.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll move to 7.03, door contacts and camera storage, safety improvements.
So this is, I kind of touched base on this a little bit before. This is for all of the high school and Titan Hill. This will put all of the door contacts on all the exterior doors. So we're going to be able to monitor all of our doors as they open. And then we'll be able to increase our storage as well. So I did put in there kind of the next phase, because I know I had some questions about, like, what about the middle school? Well, the reason the middle school is not on the list is because potentially in the renovation, we may have to replace some actual doors, like exterior doors and door frames. So it's very expensive to have people come in and install these. I don't want to have to rip them out and then redo them a year later. So they'll kind of be in phase 2. Craft you already approved with the camera bid, but these would be 2 of the other ones, or 2 of the other buildings.
And then we have a second email with the
You do, yep,
cost for prime.
yep.
I think it's 123, 150.23.
Yeah, yep, so it was, 123, 150, 23.
And that's for prime storage?
Yep, it would be prime.
Security.
Yeah, prime security, yep.
Any questions, comments on the door contacts? Oh, for the camera storage, how much storage?
Yeah, I know that we're gonna get to a minimum of 30 days per camera.
Okay.
So that was what I instructed them. I said, it doesn't help when I have somebody call me and they're like, this happened last Tuesday, and it's a week later, and where camera footage doesn't go back to last Tuesday, you know?
And
So-
are these included with the new cameras that we're getting too?
Correct, yep. So
Okay.
they'll have enough storage. I mean, Mr. Evangelisti said that for some of our cameras, they potentially store up to 50 or 60 days. So, I mean, I told him, I said, get enough storage that we don't have to do this again. So, one and done.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll move to 7.04, IASB's policy updates, legislative updates, and annual review.
Yep, so if you go to, Dr. Hartman, I sent an email, it's called Board Meeting Documents. There's a IASB Board Policy Review. If you click on that link right there. Oh, request. That's weird. This is just the first reading here. Got people board. Okay, you should be able to get it now. All right, so zoom in, please. So these are all IASB's definitions of what changed within the law, and then their recommendation for change in policy. So if you click on any of the policies, like just click on that first one, you'll see where it just crosses out. A lot of these are due to the changes in federal policy. The word gender identity has been taken out of any of the language throughout our entire board series. So this is all the policies that mention anything about gender identity, and how that's taken out. And then affirmative action too is something that they've taken out. Again, this really isn't it's not our prerogative whether or not we want to change them, that language. This is what the law is dictating we change it to, so. But you can go through and you can, look at all the policies. If you look through, I'll pull up one here. If you go to 102.E4, please. That's one I want to highlight. So one of the things that they removed in legislative session this year was they moved a lot of the attributes that, when they talk about bullying and harassment, they had a whole lot of attributes that basically we had to find in order for it to be considered bullying or harassment. They've cleaned a lot of those up, and now in order for us to find you that yes, you participated in bullying or harassment, we have to prove that it was based on age, disability, marital status, race, color, sex, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status. So if it's not one of those, it's probably not, we can't find it, at least as far as bullying and harassment goes. So. Okay.
Are we able to do anything as a district? Or do we
Oh,
have
absolutely.
to follow
As-
the law on this?
As far
The
as,
gender identity and the other changes that are the protected class?
so again, this is changed in Iowa code, and so if we don't change our policy to reflect Iowa code, the question will be, if something were to come up, and let's say gender identity is one of those things, right? So if something were to come up and somebody were going to be discriminated against for gender identity, and we as administrators would be put really between a rock and a hard place, because board policy would dictate that I would have to discipline because somebody was being discriminated against for gender identity. However, the law, I would be breaking the law by doing so. So it really puts myself and the other administrators in a really tough stance between I'm either out of compliance with my job or I'm out of compliance with the law, you know? So that's where having policy that replicates law is always preferable. Otherwise, I don't know which one I break. When it comes to like the bullying and harassment stuff, honestly, we're gonna make sure kids are taken care of. We always have. Like, just because something, and I explain this to parents a lot, just because we can't find it as bullying and harassment or discrimination, doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean that, you know, if Director Sturm, I'm gonna pick on him, is picking on me, and I go and they're like, well, it's not one of these criteria, it's not bullying and harassment. It doesn't mean his behavior is warranted or accepted. And so we can still discipline Mr. Sturm for inappropriate behavior, for inappropriate interactions, for you know, being mean. Like we can still discipline Mr. Sturm for picking on little Brent, but you know, at the end of the day, it might not be bullying and harassment, you know, but we can still have similar consequences and everything else. Again, this is all terminology that is dictated by the state, but at the end of the day has no real bearing over what our response is going to be to inappropriate behavior. So. If you go down to, let's see here. Another one would be, I mean, a lot of these all have to do with that. That was the biggest change right there. A lot with gender identity. Secretary Treasurer 2063. This is one that's a little bit different. So current, zoom in on that, please. So current policy would dictate that it is the sole responsibility of the board secretary to take care of certain records. This change in language actually loosens that up a little bit and would allow our board secretary, which is Mrs. Reyes, to designate an individual to assist with that. So that's really what this does. It just kind of makes it a little bit more open for her, instead of having to be the sole person responsible for all of these documents, to be able to say, no, I'm gonna have somebody else help me with these, so.
Do we have to formally say who that individual?
Nope,
Nope,
this is the language that they've provided. It basically allows her to say her designee, so.
Okay.
It'd be very similar to a lot of the language that's in policy, says the superintendent's designee, or the superintendent or his designee, because depending on on a situation, I may have a different designee. So right now, all the bullying harassment stuff would call on me to select a designee to investigate. Well, if it's an elementary issue, I'm probably going to select an elementary principal to investigate. So, another one that's new is 806 or 8046. If you go to that. So this is actually a new policy altogether that they passed. It basically requires us to, it just basically requires us to monitor or clarify, it clarifies the district's obligation to monitor the use of non-district generated recordings, and then staff obligations for making recordings. So this is one that, you know, through this review process, this is well, these aren't review process. This is first and only because this was a change to state law. This would be the one that, this is probably the major new policy. Basically, it says that recordings of students are public record, considered educational records. Employees should not record students or staff without their knowledge. Doing so may subject employees to disciplinary measures. Recordings will be digitally maintained and stored for an appropriate amount of time to maintain the safety of the educational environment. The use of non-district owned recording devices, school property, may be regulated at the discretion of the district. People are not allowed to take recordings of other students, employees, or community members when the recording is related to education or co-curricular matters unless we've authorized it. So we actually kind of have a lot of this policy already. Like, you're not allowed to come on school grounds and record people without their knowledge or record people without permission of the district. So this just kind of aligns with that. If a school employee records students during an academic session or something like that, they need to do so with discretion. They need to make sure they have permission. They need to make sure that, and I think a lot of it has to do with bad actors, people who recorded students or recorded people during instructional times and then have shared it inappropriately on social media or other avenues. So it's not anything that's really out there. It's just something that's now being regulated by the state. And then the other one that we have on here is the post-issuance compliance regulations. So this is about debt management. This is actually one that is not required by IASB, but is required by our attorney in order to issue us our bond. So because of the timeliness, this one can be one and done as well. Make sure I'm not overlooking anything major. Oh, one more. If you go to, for me, 104.R1, this is our regulation. So this one is probably the biggest substantial change to what our process has been here at the school. So state law only requires us to go through, so a parent or student can file a complaint. That complaint gets designated to an investigator that's designated by myself as the superintendent, and then the investigator investigates the complaint, and then it's founded or not founded, and then that's kind of the end. And then the parent can always, go back to the state level if they want. Our current process has it going to the building administrator, then to Dr. Hartman as our level 2 investigator, then to the superintendent, and then to the board if they so choose it. That is not something that is practiced in any other building or in really any other district. This was meant to be a discrimination policy, not a bullying and harassment policy. Bullying and harassment only requires one review, one finding, and then it goes to the state. So this just cleans that up.
So instead of 4 levels, we're down to like
1. Well, they always have the state level, but yeah, it'd be 1 level. Yeah. This was one that we had something that happened this spring, and after the state changed their bullying and harassment definitions in law, the attorney's like, you need to change your policy. He's like, you need to go from 1, from 4, you need to go to 1, and then they need to go to the state. So I said, okay, make sure we fit that in there as well. Any questions about that? Again, these are all changes that are required either by our attorney or our bond representation attorney or the state based on changes to state or federal law. So don't have a lot of jurisdiction over them. Again, you guys can vote not to change them, but then I have to decide, do I follow board policy or do I follow the law? So.
Well, and in a sense, if you don't approve it, you're kind of opening yourself up for legal battles down the road, wouldn't you?
Potentially. In a lot of this, I mean, you think about it, I've not had, and I mean, I'll knock on wood, but I've not had any discrimination complaints about really anything tied to that, at this point. So the likelihood of happening are not great. Again, if it's something that somebody feels like they're being discriminated against based upon or bullied based upon their gender identity, chances are they could probably find another one of those areas to say, that are closely related, So at the end of the day, again, we treat people well regardless of who they are. And so I want to make sure that we are
Yeah.
kind of following through on that,
Any other questions on policy updates? Okay, 7.05, medical leave pool policy, first reading.
Okay, so this is, can you scroll down to the policies? So this is something that, we kind of, Mrs. Reyes and I, we went through and compared a lot of different schools, talked to our attorney, got his recommendation. At the end of the day, he's not a big fan of certified employee medical leave pools, just for the simple fact that they're hard to oversee, they're hard to be consistent, et cetera. However, he has given his blessing on this particular policy. What this policy would do is ensure that those who participate in the pool, which just means that you're going to donate one of your days into the pool in order to be an active member of the pool, that if something were to happen that's a severe medical condition, that you could draw from the pool to, make the difference between your leave that you have that will run out and then long-term disability when that kicks in. So it kind of covers you in that meantime. Otherwise, right now, you could go up to 15 days non-paid before your long-term disability kicks in if you're out of leave. So this really kind of protects those individuals. It is not something that can be used on maternity leave. It's something that's really for the case of a terminal illness, a life-threatening illness, serious injury required hospitalization, or a long-term care of one of your family members. So, and you have to use all sick and personal leave in order to utilize it. I might go over there and move it down. 1 second. A couple of the things is they'll contribute 1 sick day in order to use it when the bank is depleted. If it's depleted in that particular year, they may donate another sick day. The number of bank days will never exceed the number of participants. Donated days will not be returned to the donors. And then there's no accumulation at the end of the year. The pool will reset to 0 on July 1st of each year. This kind of makes it so there's not a huge accumulation of leave and surprises the district. So again, this is the first time we've had a policy of this sort. And so we would like to start fairly conservative, and then, as we move forward in the future, after we've had it for a few years, we can reconsider, or the board can reconsider the policy. But as of right now, this is pretty restricted to those who really need it based on extreme medical conditions. So if you scroll down to the next one, which is this is how they would get it. They would fill out this application. Keep going down. There will be a group that meets to discuss this or each one of the applications. The groups are made up of 2 LCEA members, Mrs. Reyes, and then a board member. So that'll be the four people that meet to review this. So.
I thought it said 2 board members.
Oh, is it 2 board members?
Yeah, there's
Oh,
5.
2 board. Okay, yeah, 2 board members. Sorry, I was looking for that. That was going off memory. That's not very good. There you go. But again, this is just a first reading, so think about this policy. Think about, maybe read through it. Think about how maybe you'd want to see it changed or the same, and then we can have that conversation on the 16th. So
So if a teacher
yep.
would come to the board and ask, they have their sick time, but they have a child, we could extend that to, they'd have to be all out of any potential sick time.
Yeah, so right now, they have 10 days they can use for a child. Let's say they have, 30 days in their system. They would have to come to the board and request that they can convert part of their 30 days or beyond the 10 days to care for their child, for a family.
Right.
That process doesn't change.
Okay,
Well,
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, the process would change if, once they're out of those 30 days, if they need to continue to be at home with their child, then they can fill out this application. It would not go to the board. They would fill out this application. It would go to the committee, and the committee can approve up to 15 days a year to go to that employee to help fill that gap. So,
Does this impact only LCEA members?
no, this is a policy, so it's
Okay,
any,
so anybody that,
yep.
okay.
certified employee.
It's sort of,
Right.
Sorry. I'm sorry if you already said this. What, our attorney, what did we add that made him not opposed to going down this path? Was it just that it's purely for the major health issues, or was it some, what was the
yes,
verbiage?
yeah, he wanted it to be as restrictive as possible to start, because,
What are those characteristics?
yeah,
Character, okay.
yep. So, and he liked the language of not being able to carry forward days, because then it becomes, well, how many days do you carry forward? What do you do once it has all this? Because then they think it has some sort of monetary value, like there was a lot of conversation around that. So if the days, at the end of the year, the days go away if they're not used, The other thing that he liked was, putting a cap on how many days, so you can draw up to 15 days a year, so putting some of that language in there, made him say, okay, that's, start with that, so.
So the committee is the one that would either accept or deny?
Correct.
Does that open the committee up for, like, John's kid was sick, why, and he got it and I didn't?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, that's regardless of whoever's in charge of making that decision, whether it's the board, the administration, or the committee, like, that's always a consideration.
I mean, is it pretty black and white what is approved and what is not?
I believe it is. I believe it's, you have to use up all of your sick leave. It's for a serious illness or hospitalization. So if you come to me and say, hey, my daughter's got bad allergies and I'm out of sick leave, the committee would say, well, that's not considered a serious illness or
Right.
hospitalization. Like, you don't get any days.
So the request goes out to employees at the beginning of each year saying, do you want to contribute to this or not?
Yep.
And so it's managed by admin?
Yes,
Okay.
It'll probably go through our records. Is that how we do that right now?
Yes, the form will go through records. And then I'm checking with a couple other districts
On how they keep those on
on
file?
how they keep track of theirs from that side of things.
Okay. Any questions on this one? Again, this is just a first reading, so there's no action on it tonight. Okay.
The School Improvement Advisory Committee approval, 7.06.
So we do have a meeting for this set up on Tuesday, June 17th, and it's going to be something we have to do every year. It's by Iowa statute that requires us to have a school improvement advisory committee to review major educational needs, student learning goals, and then provide feedback for long-range and annual improvement goals in the areas of math, reading, and science, what they would perceive as appropriate student performance, and then progress to, what they would see as progress, so it's us giving them an opportunity to look through our data, and then really sitting back and giving them an opportunity to give us feedback, which this year will be really focused towards kind of your strategic planning that you're doing in those three main bucket areas. So you guys have to actually approve the committee. So I sent you guys a committee list in that email.
Do I have to recuse myself since I'm on the list?
Probably, that would probably be good. So, I put Tim on there as board president. We can actually have up to 3 board members join. I didn't know if anybody else wanted to join. It would be the 17th from 5:30 to about 8:30. But right now, those are the parents who have said that they would like to be a part of it. One note, we have, oh, did I take her off? We have Osdemore. Is that Sarah?
Sarah?
Yeah, Sarah Osdemore. She would like to be on it. She can't be here for this year, but it would be a 2-year. It'd be like this year through next year. So I would like to make an amendment to add Sarah Osdemore on there. I forgot I took her off of that. So I think I took her off, and she said she couldn't be there this year, but she'd like to be there next year if she can. So.
Who did you reach out? I mean, just to parents to see if they,
Yep.
the ones that have been on previously?
It was a mix. It was I was trying to hit all 3 grade levels, and then I was trying to hit some. Am I missing? I'm missing a couple on there. I'm also missing Travis Houston. Travis Houston should be on there. I don't know what I said. I don't know how I got those guys deleted. So Travis Houston and Sarah Osmore should be on there. I try to hit like some parents that I knew had some tag students, and then some parents that I knew had maybe some struggling learners, or had a student that's on an individual learning plan. And then for the staff, I try to get a teacher at every level, so elementary, middle, high. Amanda Clanton's on there because she's kind of a health recommendation. Carrie is a support staff member, so tried to just kind of take a variety of people. So.
I didn't know if anyone from the community has been asked. They don't have students in the school.
No, if you would like to make a recommendation to add somebody.
Yeah, Travis.
Oh, Travis would be. Travis doesn't have any students in the school right now.
Is,
Ainsley, no.
yeah, she's not continuing. I mean,
She
it's not-
is through a separate program.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, if you guys have any other recommendations, I mean, I've always tried to keep it relatively balanced between parents and staff, but I would rather have more parents than staff than more staff than parents. So if you guys have other recommendations, I mean, I could sure take them.
Those are some good parents too.
And honestly, I picked pretty involved parents because parents that I knew have given me really good feedback in the past. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to reach out to any other parents. I just know that these parents right here have given very honest feedback, and they're pretty knowledgeable in different areas. And there's a couple different demographics in there. So.
Any other questions, comments on the SIAC committee? Okay. Then we will move to, and I'll combine these two, 7.07 and 7.08, superintendent evaluation, and we'll talk a little bit about contract. So per Iowa Code 21.5, 1A, closed session is appropriate to review or discuss records which are required or authorized by state or federal law to be kept confidential, or to be kept confidential as a condition for that governmental body's possession or continued receipt of federal funds. Can I get a vote to move to closed session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes. returned out of closed session. So we're going to move to the second portion of our meeting where we offer comments and suggestions for anybody in the viewing audience to share any comments that they have with the board. Do we have anybody online?
Give you another minute.
All right, we'll give it a minute. Okay, all right. Then we will move to action items. So 9.01, Titan Hill HVAC bid approval.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the bid from Grunwald in the amount of $406,489.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.02, high school trophy case improvements.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the high school trophy case renovation contract to, is it Cormacy, for $59,584.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.03, door contacts and camera storage, safety improvements.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the bid from Prime Secured for $123,150.23.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.04, IASB policy updates.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the first and final reading of the board policies provided due to changes in Iowa legislation.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
No.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.05, school improvement action committee approval.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the School Improvement Advisory Committee as presented,
Can you make, with the additions of
with the
Sarah-
additions of the
Sarah Osmore
And Travis House.
the
Travis
two
House.
you mentioned,
Correct.
okay. With those additional people.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Abstain. 9.06, superintendent contract renewal.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract renewal and everything that was presented as in closed session.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Items of interest, future board meetings.
Question, should that be June 16th, Monday?
Is that the wrong date on here?
Oh, June 17th.
June 19th.
Oh, it's the 16th, oops.
Yep.
Correct. Regular board meeting is on June 16th, Monday, and then the 17th, the SiAC meeting, and then just a reminder for those sitting in on the, I guess it would be Mrs. Sheffel, Mrs. Atkins, and Mr. Sturm. We'll be interviewing middle school renovation architects. There's just two of them. The third one dropped out, so just two of them next Monday night. So we'll hopefully have a recommendation to the board for June 16th. So.
Okay. No other items on the board. We were on the docket. we will move to close the meeting. Can I get a motion to close, please?
So moved.
Second, yeah.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?